record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night. Now that might sound bad, I know, but there's really nothing to worry about.
My God! Help me! I'm going to get out, and I'm going to find you.
Those same stupid songs for 20 years, and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too.
Was that the bite of 87?
FNAF seems to be one of those franchises that never dies. From the games, to the books, to the analog horror videos, till finally now a Hollywood film by Blumhouse. What remains of the humble beginnings of this franchise are now completely lost, as this franchise is just now one of the many money-making machines for the entertainment industry. This is most apparent in the new film by Blumhouse. Almost everything that made the original game so special is now completely lost in the new film, as this film flounders at the one thing that this franchise used to be amazing at: being scary. Now some of you might be saying, Abba, this film isn't that bad. And to that I would say, if it isn't a FNAF film, would you really be excusing a lot of the flaws this film has? I would hope not, as the majority of this film flops at what made everything about the game so special. What remains is a thin husk of what the games were all about. And now let's get on to the main points of this video, where I talk about all the things that this film did completely wrong throughout its runtime. I'm sure almost everyone here knows the story behind FNAF already, but for those who don't, let me give you a quick synopsis. FNAF was made by a single developer by the name of Scott Cawthon, who also wrote the screenplay for this film. When his game before, Chipper & Sons, flopped, he saw a review where they described the characters as resembling those creepy animatronics from those 80s arcades. So he used that as an inspiration to make the first Five Nights at Freddy's game in a very simple game maker called ClickTeam Fusion. What he did in this game was extremely focused on atmosphere, where the game is all built up to a jump scare throughout. But because of this, you could also play the game without ever being jump scared if you wanted to, as the jump scares were a punishment for losing the game. But where this game truly succeeds is the sound design, as the atmosphere because of it is nothing short of impeccable. But I don't want to get too much into sound design here, as Scruffy has already made a video on it, and I'll include a link to that video down in the description. But everything in this game, because of that, blends well together and doesn't fail, and works to make the player of the game extremely on edge throughout the entire game's runtime. And because of this, Scott put all of his free time into making this game, banking on its success, because if it didn't succeed, he most likely would have to quit game making forever. What Scott couldn't have seen coming was just how well the game would perform upon release. The release was slow for a little, but the game slowly began to pick up steam. I'm just kidding, it exploded completely out of nowhere. This rise would go exponential after YouTuber Markiplier made a video declaring it the scariest game of all time. This launched Scott into international stardom, and 4 months later he would release the widely loved sequel, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. This game would capture the same magic as the first, as it also sold extremely well and was picked up by many major Let's Players. But people at this point thought Scott could do no wrong, as he had released 2 Smash games in only 4 months, and in this new one he had actually started to add a story. See, in the first game there had been hints of an overall story, but not much. The story would be told through things like poster on the wall, where it would talk about 4 kids going missing at the restaurant. However, the second game would tell the story in a lot less subtle of a way than the first game. The second had these mini games that would tell the story of the kids that went missing, and a killer was formed in the character called Purple Guy, later revealed to be a man by the name of William Afton. And this story would continue on into the third game, FNAF 3, where we would be introduced to a new animatronic, Springtrap. And throughout the minigames of FNAF 3, it's revealed that Springtrap is in fact William Afton, aka the Purple Guy. And that's essentially all you need to know before going into the movie about the story, so let's move on. As I said earlier, the film has a complete and total lack of atmosphere throughout the whole film, as the location itself is not made frightening. The soundscape of this film does not build tension in the same way that the games do whatsoever. The games are scary from the get-go, as when you load into the game you hear that fan noise constantly going, showing that where you are is very loud and able to be heard by whatever is in this building. Then the phone begins, letting you know that these animatronics know exactly where you are. No hiding, as the sounds in this room are extremely loud. Then, when checking the cameras, you'll start to hear these awful atmospheric noises setting you on edge completely. However, the film completely misses this, as the nights aren't even used in the film. In the film, instead of actually doing his job as a night guard, he falls asleep, showing the exact same scene around 6 times. And I'll tell you what, that scene does not get any scarier each time they show it. It is not scary whatsoever. The atmosphere of the pizzeria is not even the same as the game, as although it's abandoned, it feels a lot more friendly than it does in the game when it's supposed to be open. They could have at least made the location look even more grimy, as it's supposed to have been abandoned for years at this point. At least make it look like it is. The film doesn't even have me feel tense throughout its entire runtime, as there was no build-up. Even the jump scares were poorly done. And now, speaking of the jump scares, let's get into those. To illustrate how unscary this film is, that scene from the game I just showed you is most likely more scary than that film as a whole. To continue about the main point, this film, it's just not a scary film at all. It just doesn't go far enough, you know? It's not campy enough to be funny and entertaining, and it's not atmospheric and well made enough for the film to work. I think a lot of it comes down to the poor writing of the film and the acting, as the story is told in the most overt way possible, with little subtlety about what happened in the story. For example, what made the game so frightening is that it left a lot of it up to the imagination, as the story was told through extremely vague things like the posters in the first game, and the mini-games in the second. I think if the movie focused more on the horror of the situation and less on trying to be cinematic and as deep as possible, then the film would have been much better. And to that, I'd like to say that the film's tone is all over the place. The tone of the film seems to be trying to go for something dark, but there are scenes in the film that I would describe as being closer to an 80s kids film. For example, there's literally a scene in the film where they start to play games with the animatronics. And yes, before you're complaining in the comments section, telling me that it's showing that the animatronics behave like children, don't you think they could have conveyed that in a more frightening way in the film? I think the scene that really just shows how unscary this film is the scene where that group breaks into the pizzeria as well, as the film fails extremely at being frightening in this scene especially. That scene feels like something that you'd see in a haunted house, as it's just not scary at all. I think this film is really held back by the PG-13 rating it's got, because it should have went all the way with these scares, but most of them are shown off camera, or they have, although it does get pretty gory for a PG-13 movie, I will give it that, but some things like the scene with the guy in the closet is just not scary, and there's just nothing scary about it. They could have done so much more with it, but they just didn't. So I don't think it works as a whole, because there's nothing creepy about the scene. The only thing I'll give it is that scene with the bite is a little scary. That's it though. That's about all I can give that scene, because that's supposed to be like the big scare scene of the movie where the animatronics are killing this huge group of people, but you don't really see anything that's that frightening. And to wrap this all up, I think the film just missed a lot of potential. And I don't want you guys to think that I hate this film, because I didn't. There was things about this film that I didn't like. It just wasn't what I wanted from a FNAF film, if that makes sense. So this is all purely my opinion. So please do not get mad at this video. I'm sorry about that. But I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And I actually will be trying to get the video done for next week, but because of me rushing this one out, I'm hoping to get it done, but I might not be able to get it done next week, if that's okay. And I'd like to apologize for that, and I hope you guys all have a great week this week, and remember to like and subscribe, and everyone have a great day, and enjoy.